Hi students, welcome back to the online classes. This is the second session of the lesson force. So, we are discussing about the types of forces. How many types of forces are there? Contact forces and forces at a distance or field forces. So, we are discussing about contact forces. So, we are already discussed muscular forces and force of friction. What is muscular force? The force exerted with the help of muscles are called muscular forces. And what is force of friction? Force of friction is the resistance to the motion of the body over the surface of another body. For example, if I was moving, the surface offers a resistance force, a opposing force. Resistance force means a resistance for the motion of my body over the I was over the surface of another object. So, this floor is another object. So, I was over the another surface. So, what is frictional force? Frictional force is the resistance for the frictional force is the, for example, a ball is rolling on a surface, So, after some time it came to stop. How? So, some opposing force is there, some opposing forces stops the ball and brings it to rest. So, here some opposing force is called as frictional force. Frictional force is the resistance for the motion of the body over the surface of another body. So, this is the surface. So, this is the surface of another body. On this surface offers a opposition force for the motion of the body. This is the motion of the body. What is the direction of the frictional force? Direction of the frictional force is this one, always opposite to the direction of motion. The direction of frictional force is always opposite to the direction of motion. This is the direction of motion and this is the direction of frictional force. So, these are the two forces that we are discussed in contact forces. These two forces are the contact forces. There are two more forces are there. So, in that the third type of contact force is normal force. The third type of contact force is normal force. For example, consider a book on a table. So, let us consider, I have considered an object on a plane surface. This is a plane. I have considered an object on a plane surface. So, this object was here. Let us imagine that this plane surface is disappeared. So, what happens? This plane surface suddenly disappears. What happens? This object will falls downward. Earth will pull this object. Earth will attract this object. So, here the object, what happened? The object falls down. But the which force is stops the falling of this object. So, this particular plane surface is applying some force and makes it does not falls on the ground. So, some particular force is acting in the upward direction by the plane surface. Some particular force is acting in the upward direction by this plane surface. That is why it does not falls on the ground. Why? Because this particular plane surface is applying some force in the upward direction, right. So, that some particular force acting in the upward direction. For example, let us take, so this is the table and you have kept a book on it. So, if the table is suddenly disappeared, what happens? The book suddenly falls down. So if I release, so I have hold an object here. So, if I remove my hand, what will happen? So, object will falls down. So, I am opposing this force. This falling force is opposed by some upward force. Here my hand is applying some force in the upward direction. So, similarly, this surface, the surface of the table applies some force in the normal direction. So, here on the book two forces are there. One is earth attraction force. Earth attraction force is in downward direction and the table surface and the surface of the table applies some force in the upward direction, in the normal direction, What is meant by normal direction? The direction which is perpendicular to the plane surface, which is it is let us imagine this as a plane surface. This is the surface of the table, this is the surface of the table, and this is the normal line. This is the normal line. Why? Because it is perpendicular to the plane surface. Perpendicular means making 90 degrees angle. This direction is called as normal line to this plane surface. Normal line to this particular plane surface. Normal line to the plane surface. So, in which direction the force will be applied? In normal direction. So, this plane surface of the table. So, the book is kept on the table. This plane surface of the table is applying a force on the book in the normal direction. This plane surface is applying force on the book in normal direction. Such force is called as normal force. What is meant by normal force? So, the direction which is perpendicular to the plane surface is called normal. Let us write what is normal first. What is normal? The line which is perpendicular to the plane surface, is called normal. Is called normal line. So, if this is the plane surface, this is the normal line. Why? Because this line is making an angle 90 degrees here. If this is the plane surface, this is the normal line. Normal line is the line which is perpendicular to the plane surface. So, let us take this as the plane. Then this line indicates normal line. Okay. Line which is perpendicular to the plane surface is called normal line. So, what is meant by normal force? The force exerted by the solid surface. So, this is the table surface. So, the force exerted by the solid surface on another object in the normal direction is called as normal force. So, here the table is offered, the table exerting some force in the upward direction. The table surface is exerting force in the normal direction. The surface of the table is exerting some force in the normal direction. So, what is normal force? The force exerted means applied. The force exerted by a solid surface on any other object. So, here the force is acting on the book on any other object in normal direction is called normal force. So, normal force will act always perpendicular to the plane surface. Normal force always acts perpendicular to the plane surface. For example, I have considered an inclined plane. So, let us say I have considered an object like this and I have placed a wooden block here. So, this plane surface, this inclined plane surface, inclined plane means it is not horizontal, it is having some angle. So, this inclined plane surface will apply normal force in this direction. See, let us see here, this arrow mark is perpendicular to the plane. This arrow mark is perpendicular to this plane. So, hence it is the normal force direction applied by this inclined plane. This is the normal force applied. So, this is about normal force. So, normal force is a contact force that was applied by a plane surface in the normal direction. So, this is one type of normal force. So, and another type of contact force is tension. So, let us tie a thread, let us tie a string or thread to an object. So, let us tie. So, I have taken an object and I have tied a thread to it, and fixed it to a rigid support. So, this is the thread, and the object does not falls. The object, if there is no thread, what happens? The object will falls down in this direction. So, this is the earth attraction force. So, this is the weight mg. I will explain it later. This is the weight of the object acting in the downward direction. So, but this object does not falls. Some force keeps this object at this position. Some force prevents the object fall. What is that force? That force is along the thread. Some force is acting along the thread that prevents the fall of object. Here, if you tie a thread to this object, if you hold like this, the object does not falls. So, if you release, what happened? The object falls down. So, what is the force keeps this object like this? That force is along the thread. That force is presented along the thread. That force we will call it as tension. So, this is the weight acting in the downward direction. So, the object weight is in the downward direction. So, to balance that force, some force is balancing in the upward direction. So, to balance that force, the force will be in the upward direction only. So, that is why this upward direction force balances the downward direction weight. This upward direction force balances the downward direction weight. So, here what happens? Tension is the force acts along the threads or string. Tension is the force which acts along the string or thread. The force which present along that acts along the thread or string is called as tension. So, the force which is presented in the string or thread is called as tension. So, what is tension? The force that acts along the thread, or string is called as tension. The direction of tension is always away from the object. The direction of tension is always away from the object. So, here where the thread was presented, here it is the thread. What is the direction of tension in this thread is it always acts away from the object. So, this is the object, this is the thread. What is the direction of the tension? The tension direction is away from the object. So, let us consider another example. So, I have tied a thread to the block. So, this is the thread and I was pulling the block like this. So, tension will present in this thread. So, what is this direction? So, this is the thread. So, it acts away from the objects. So, the tension will also present along the threads of the kites. On festival season you may played with kites, right? So, there is tension presented along this thread. That tension will always act away from the object, away from the kite, the tension will presented. Okay. So, this is the concept of tension. So, tension is the force that acts along the thread or string means wire or threads. So, the force which is presented along the strings or threads or ropes are called as tension. And what is the direction of tension? Tension always act away from the object. The direction of the tension is always away from the object. So, these are the different types of contact forces. What are the different types of contact forces? muscular forces, force of friction or frictional force, and third one is normal force, and the fourth one is tension. So, let us discuss about forces at a distance. Let us discuss about forces at a distance. So, our next we have completed the types of contact forces. There are 4 different types of contact forces. Now, look into the forces at a distance. Forces at a distance, or we will call this as field forces. We will call this as field forces. So, the first type of field force is magnetic force. The first type of field force is magnetic force. So, these are the forces, it does not require any direct physical contact. If you observe muscular force, it needs direct physical contact. To lift any object, we need to have some direct contact. For a normal force, the object has to be in contact with plane surface. Frictional force, the object should be in contact with the surface. Tension, the object should be in contact with the rope, thread or string. Here the magnetic force, let us consider a magnet here. If you bring any safety pin or nail to this magnet, what will happen? This magnet will apply the force on this nail and will attract So, what is the action done by the magnetic force is pull. It will pulls the magnetic substances towards it. Let us consider another magnet. So, this is north pole, this is south pole, and place south pole near to the south pole. What will happen? It will pushes this magnet push the second magnet, or both the magnets pushes each other. This pull and push forces of magnet are called as magnetic forces. Otherwise, the force exerted by the magnet are called as magnetic force. So, what is meant by magnetic force? The force exerted by the magnet is called magnetic force. So, let us discuss about magnetic field. So, let us place a magnet here. North pole, south pole. So, place a nail near to the magnet. So, will it attract to the magnet? Yes, it is very near to the magnet, hence the magnet will attract this nail. So, place the nail here. So, does the magnet attract that nail? No. Why? Because it is at a very large distance. So, this magnet can attract the substances up to some distance only, up to some area only. So, let us say if this is the area around the magnet where it can influence the other, where it can apply the force on the other magnetic substance. For example, if you kept the nail inside this area, then it will be attracted. If you keep this magnet, if you keep the nail at this, so it will be attracted. If you keep this nail here, it will be attracted. If you keep the nail outside of this area, it will not affect the nail. It cannot attract the nail. So, for a magnet, there will be some area around it where it can influence the other magnetic substance, where it can apply the force on the other magnetic substance. So, the nails which is kept inside this area will be only attracted. So, other nails which are outside does not have any effect. So, some area only will be affected. So, this magnet will have some area. Area means field. What is the meaning of English meaning of word field? Field means area. Field means area. The other meaning of the word field is area. So, field, magnetic field is nothing but the area around the magnet where it can influence the other magnets. So, we cannot call this as field. Why? Because these magnets will not be affected by the magnet. So, if you keep the nail here, yes, it is in the field area, it is in the influenced area. So, here this nail can be attracted to the magnet. So, the area presented around the magnet, where it can influence the other magnetic substance, where it can apply the force, the magnetic force is called as magnetic field. So, that is why we will call these as field forces. That means, we will discuss different forces under field forces. So, every force here, magnetic force is having magnetic force. Next we will discuss electrostatic force, there we will have electric field. Next we will discuss gravitational force, there we will have gravitational field, like that. That is why these forces are also called as field forces. These forces are also called as field forces. What is magnetic field? What is magnetic field? So, write the definition here. I will write definition here. So, magnetic field, the area around the magnet, the area around the magnet where it can influence another object, where it can influence another magnetic substance. So, magnet can apply the force on the magnetic substance only. Magnet cannot apply the forces on plastic bodies or wooden bodies, right. So, the magnet is able to apply the force on magnets or magnetic substance. So, that is why I was particularly representing as where it can influence another magnetic substance is called magnetic field. So, what is meant by magnetic field? Magnetic field. The area, field is means area. The area around the magnet, where it can influence the other magnetic substance. So, let us say this is the area around the magnet. So, if you keep the nail here, it will not be attracted to the magnet. Why? Because it is out of the field. So, it does not have, this magnet does not have any influence on this magnetic substance. If you keep the nail here, nail means a small sharp object. So, if you keep the nail here, it will be attracted to the magnet. So, why? Because it is in the field. So, now this magnet can influence this magnetic substance, nail. So, this magnet can influence the magnetic substance. So, the area presented around the magnet where it can influence another magnetic substance is called as magnetic field. So, this is the concept of magnetic force. So, you can also visualize the magnetic field around the magnet. How? So, just consider, take a bar magnet, north pole, south pole, and place a white chart on it, place a white paper on it. So, take a bar magnet and place a white paper on it and sprinkle some iron fillings on the paper. Sprinkle iron fillings on the paper. So, what you will observe, you have kept a paper on the magnet. So, this is the white paper and you have magnet under this paper. So, if you sprinkle iron fillings on this paper, iron fillings means small iron particles, So, this is the magnet you have placed, I was representing with a dotted line. So, this is placed under the white paper. So, if you sprinkle the iron fillings on the paper and just tap like this. So, sprinkle iron fillings on the white paper and tap like this. So, what happened? So, these will arrange in a particular pattern. Iron fillings will arrange in some particular pattern. So, it will occupy some place around the magnet. That place is nothing but magnetic field. That place is nothing but magnetic field. So, in such a way you can also observe magnetic area around the magnet. So, let us discuss about another one, that is electric force, that is electric force. So, what is electric force? So, sometimes when you comb your hair, after comb your hair, your comb will attract some small pieces of paper. So, if you have a pen, just rub with silk cloth. So, just rub the pen with silk cloth and place the pen near to the pieces of paper, or after combing your hair, place this comb near to the pieces of paper. If you place the comb near to the pieces of paper, this comb will attract the papers. There is some attraction force between the papers. So, why they are attracted is, they are attracted due to the property of charge. So, by combing your hair, the comb is acquired charge. So, and paper is also having, you are tearing the papers. Your pieces of paper means you have teared it. You have made into small pieces. So, this paper pieces also is having some charge. So, these two charges will have some force of attraction. So, that force of attraction is called as electric force. So, if you no need to take the comb, just take the pen and rub the pen with silk cloth, and place, after rubbing the pen, place the pen near to the small pieces of paper. So, this pen will attracts small pieces of paper. Why? Because of the charge. By rubbing the pen, this pen is acquired some charge. So, that charge is exerting some force on the pieces of paper. So, electric force is the force exerted by the charge. Electric force is the force exerted by the charge on another charged body. Is called electric force. So, electric force is the force between two charged bodies. Electric force is the force between two charged particles. The force between the two charged particles is called as electric force. If you consider a charge, if your charge is denoted with Q, there will be area around the charge where it can influence another charge. So, that area will be called as electric field. So, similar to the magnetic field area, there will be electric field is also there around the charged particle. What is electric field? The area around the charge where it can influence another charge. So, if you place another charge here, it will not be influenced. Why? Because it is out of the boundary. So, this is not the electric field area. If you place charge here, this will be attracted. Why? Because it is in the electric field area. So, it is placed in the area where this charge can influence this charge. So, electric field is the area around the charge where another charge will be influenced. And let us discuss the last type of field forces, that is gravitational force. So, you all well known about this gravitational force. What is gravitational force? If I release this object like this, it is moving in the downward direction. So, who was pulling this object? Who is pulling this object? If I release this object, someone was pulling this object. Who? The earth is attracting this object. That is why it is moving in the downward direction. That particular object is moving in the downward direction. That attraction force of earth is called as gravitational force. The force exerted by the earth is called as gravitational force. The force exerted by the earth. So, especially this is an attraction force. the attraction force exerted by the earth is called gravitational force.